of events, if you're not within, ensconced within the, within the flow of the ideas and the feelings and the emotions and the values of society, you can't be a good writer, right? You can put words to paper, but then you can't put emotions and you can't put meaning to it, right? So, yeah, it's really helpful. It's great to teach, actually.
Right, so that's a great piece of advice if you want to be a writer. Just go out there and be somebody, instead of being a golem and writing. Yes,
you can't. I don't know. Maybe some others can, but I can't seclude myself, isolate myself, and at the same time talk about society. I think that's a bit of an oxymoron. You talk about society, but you're not, fully. You don't have any real contact with it.
All right. On that note, we'll go into a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back to speak more about the book. This is Good Morning Sri Lanka. Make sure you visit our Facebook page on www.facebook.com/Good Morning Sri Lanka. Click the like button and stand a chance to win merchandise by MTV. We'll be right back. And we're back on Good Morning Sri Lanka. In case you just tuned in, we're speaking about the book Colombo, a critical introspection with the author Vimarshana Vijay Surya. He's here in the studio. We were just speaking about the book and the reception. We were just about to get into that. Once the book came out, and you were telling us that you are a lecturer. When that book came out, how were you did any of your students who were like, sir, we read the book?
Not so much from students, because to be honest, I took a break from lecturing from 2010 just to finish it off, get it out there in the market. That's from 2010, and actually only started about a year ago lecturing again. And but not so much from students, but definitely from friends and various other sort of stakeholders in society. And I'll be honest. Much of the reception was, we don't understand it. Okay, I'll be honest. But I never wanted to simplify it for the sake of some of the concepts, some of the phenomena in society is too complicated to sort of dumb down and simplify in a way. And my aim in this book was to capture every nuance and every subtlety. So I didn't want to do that. So I didn't want to in a way, I didn't want to condescend to the reader and just make it a simple sort of, okay, this is what it is in a very simple format. Part of it was I didn't understand, but another part of it was, yes, there are some, and a lot of intellectuals specifically said, okay, and they were the target market which sort of came out and said, yes, we agree with some of what you say, but let's start a discussion. And that's what I wanted in a wider scope as well, but perhaps, that didn't happen. And then there was another group which just sort of looked at a few of the cover pages of the various essays and said, what the hell are you doing? We hate you. Okay. So, I have plans of releasing sort of an abridged version, which perhaps will, have a further penetration. But in the first book, I wanted to lay out every single nuance and subtlety. So it had that was a summary of the impact that we had. Right
after the launch, you had a couple of book tours here in the country and also outside. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I think one of the things which I'll be honest, which I find a little unfortunate is that the reception for this book was better outside of Sri Lanka than in Sri Lanka itself.
Oh my God, that totally makes sense when you said, remember, you have to look at it the further away you are from it.
And two markets, I would talk about, two publics, two audiences. One thing is the Sri Lankan expatriates abroad, and you might think I'm making this up, but just yesterday a colleague of mine, her uncle's a psychiatrist in the USA, he had just gotten the book and he was like, okay, this is wonderful and blah blah blah, and he'd gone and bought a copy and everything, and that's a Sri Lankan expatriate, right? And that is a market that definitely had a very sort of, this book had a strong impact on. And I've heard that it's been discussed in various universities abroad in terms of the Sri Lankan students. A few of the students have brought it up. And another market, obviously, that it's had an impact on is I was very happy. It was one of the happiest days of my life. Actually, all the Ivy League universities have it. Like that's Harvard, Princeton, Yale,
nice.
Columbia, Pennsylvania, and Cornell all have it. So in that sort of academic circles, yes. Outside of Sri Lanka, yes.
Yeah.
But within Sri Lanka, no, not as much. And I think, as you said, it's perhaps that distance. But I think that's one of the things, perhaps because the book is not very accessible. I'll put it that way. Okay. Perhaps it's that. But other than that, it's just that, to stimulate Sri Lankans to introspect is not an easy task. I could sugarcoat it for you, but it's not. And maybe I didn't do everything I needed to do to make it easier. But yes, I would say the impact in those amongst those two audiences was far more resounding than it was within Sri Lanka. But even at many other bookshops, it's a lot of the foreigners that take the book, and I leave a little book, like sort of a notebook, saying leave your feedback. Some of it is profane. So very many foreigners, expatriates to Sri Lanka, they've said, wish I read this book 15 years ago when I came to Sri Lanka. So I keep those comments, I treasure those comments. They're like, this really made me understand. So I hope, these kind of forums can stimulate people to say, okay, let's introspect about ourselves. It's a difficult thing, right? Because you just think I am and that's it. That's all, right? But who knows? A book lasts forever. A book is eternal. True. So 50 years down the line, maybe someone can do that, right? But anyway.
This book was self-published, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Now you said it wasn't, one of the main concerns you had was that it wasn't very accessible to a lot of people.
Yeah, it was self-published, not because of the accessible reason, but there are a lot of sensitive topics in here.
Yes.
And so because of that, I didn't want editors to cut and chop, sanitize some of the more incendiary, inflammable topics. And publishing is, especially in Sri Lanka, it just means someone else prints it and puts it to the bookshops, right? So I was like, if that's going to mean they're going to take away from the elements which are the fundamentals of this book, I'd rather publish it myself. I'm not in it for the money by any manner of means. So I published it myself because I didn't want any, I want proofreading, I want structural editing, but I certainly don't want the content edited, and I don't think any writer wants their voice to be muted or adulterated by someone else.
I think that's the thing with artists though, like
I think it is.
If someone messes around with your baby, because this is considered your baby,
this is, I try to, as a writer, I try to stick away from cliches. But I think if there's one cliche that I believe in, a book is your child. So I don't want that to be in any way adulterated. Right. So there you go.
All right. Getting into your creative process of writing. For the writers at home, for the people who want to be writers, someone that wants to be inspired, can you let us know how you do that?
How I write, is it? I'll put it this way, because your aim was to inspire other writers.
Yes.
Don't stop reading quotes about writing. Stop even wanting inspiration. If follow your process. If your process is to hang yourself upside down in a noisy place and write with your non-strong hand, if you're right-handed, write with your left hand, or write with the pen in your mouth, do it. There's no, I think there's this problem with this sort of herding people into this one path. I don't know, my process is to start at about 11 and end at about 4. Tell no one that I'm writing a book until the very end. Pretend that I'm doing other work and write. That gives me that privacy I need. But that's just me. I'm sure there's someone who will have a completely different process. I need a fair distance from home. I can't sit at home and never do any writing. So I need some weird distance from home. So that's my process. But I think the more important thing is about the process itself, about the philosophy of the processes. The philosophy of the process should be yours. So the inspiration to the writer is don't. I think there's a great quote in writing which, as I said, I shouldn't follow quotes in writing. But I'm contradicting myself. But one of the great quotes in writing is, don't fetishize classics. Okay, and don't fetishize the classic literature and just say, okay, this great writer did it this way, so therefore this is what great writing is. But also don't fetishize the process, whichever is your process. I know some writers, they write still pen on paper and get someone to sort of transcribe that to the computer. I write directly to the computer, right? In Microsoft Word, nothing more grand than that. But so process is your own. If you have a passion, if you want to say something, doesn't matter really how the process doesn't matter. And don't fetishize the classics and don't fetishize the classic processes either. Yeah.
Now you told me from 11 to 4 you would write outside the house. Would you consider that? I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
But is it more like discipline? Like you're very disciplined when you're writing, or do you and you wait for inspiration to hit you? Or obviously you can't really expect it when inspiration will hit you. But some people, when it comes to film directors or musicians, they would just run out there to the world and be like, "Where's my inspiration?"
Yeah.
And then,
when I come up with a book idea, okay, I don't think this is one thing any writer can escape, and I don't think escape is even the right word. Why would you want to escape your passion? Discipline is necessary, but discipline is the wrong word, because if you're passionate about it, you won't even feel the time go by. Okay? For me, I start at 11. The next thing I look, it's 4:30, and it's only because I've told myself, okay, this is the extent of your limited mental energies for today, that I say, okay, maybe tomorrow. But I don't. You do need, and I think discipline is the product of passion. But yes, I am disciplined. I guess you can call it. You can call it that, because I always aim to start at about 11:30 and go until whenever. But 5 hours is my capacity. I'm sure there are people out there with far more capacity than me, but that's my capacity. And yeah, I mean, inspiration for me, I get the inspiration first. I let it incubate for a week, I think for a few months, and then when it is about to be born, that is when the discipline and the hard work comes into play. Like my next book, I thought about it one day, I suddenly got a eureka moment, and it incubated until at one point it couldn't stay in anymore. And then from that point there was no question of time and discipline and sacrifice. Those are not questions which passion asks. Those are things which just flow. And that was it for me, and that's why I'm not a very prolific writer. I don't imagine me writing more than maybe, it would be great if I can write 10 books in my lifetime, because it takes a long time. I meditate and muse over every single word, every single concept, and after a book I never say I must start a new book. I could never write another book again. I know I kind of will, but until that idea strikes me, I may never write again. So I wait. I'm patient until the world and my mind and some interaction of the two gives me the inspiration to go on. So
would you say that you would attract this? I mean, that some people believe, like, okay, you know what, I will attract what I want into my life. So would you say, okay, I'm attracting all this inspiration for me to write the next book, and your new book, which we don't even know the name yet, and apparently this is the first time you're about to speak about the book.
Yeah, I know.
On Good Morning Sri Lanka. Yeah. Score. All right, let's speak about the new book. Is it a novel or?
Yeah. I have just one tiny little sort of promise to make. If anyone reads my first book and reads my second without a title,
this one.
So you read this book. You struggle through this book. Right. Okay, and you struggle through this book. Then you take up this other book. I shouldn't slip out the name just yet, right? Yeah?
Not yet, no.
And then there's no author, or there's a pen name. There's no author's name or a pen name. And then you read this book. I promise you, if you don't know the name on the front, you might never know that it was me who wrote this. Because it's completely different. First of all, this is non-fiction, philosophy, sociology. This next book is fiction. It's a novel. But it's not, I'm sorry for the romantics out there, it's not about romance. It's a political novel. Political as in not, you know what I mean, philosophical structures of society, sociology, psychology, and it's a dystopia. I don't know if some of you are familiar with, 1984, Brave New World, books like that, So it's a dystopia, it's a novel. far more accessible in a way.
Right.
Still, here the philosophical themes are told,
right,
explained. There the philosophical themes are lived,